Hey guys, welcome to the world of 28mm. Okay, in this video we're going to be looking excuse me, at making molds. Now the reason I'm sitting on my sofa is because the beginning of this is going to be a little bit waffly, because I just want to sort of debunk some myths or doubts that people have about making molds. When I first started out several years ago, I've been doing this for about 6 or 7 years now, I wanted to have a crack at it, and so I went onto lots of forums and watched lots of videos of how to do it and the best ways of doing it, and a lot of them kept saying you need to have a vacuum chamber, or they would get 3/4 of the way through of showing you how to make a mold and then go, and then we'll put it in a vacuum chamber, which nobody has. So I thought I'd do this video primarily to say that you don't need all this professional equipment when you're making molds. Okay, if you're working for big companies, or you're making say stuff for movies or TV series, props, then fine, yeah, buy one, because you probably will need one. But when you're doing molds at grassroots level, and when I say grassroots, I mean like, just you found some groovy doors on eBay and you can't find them again, so well, I'd like to keep them, so we'll make a mold of them, therefore you never lose them. Okay, and I've done that with a few of my things. I've got some old vintage stuff that when I bought I thought, wow, these are really cool, I wouldn't mind keeping these, so I made some molds of them and I used them for my wartime boards and things. So, right, before I ramble on, so let's get to the subject. Now, I've already done 5 takes of this already, so this time I have it all written down because I kept forgetting things. Okay, so, and I also brought a brew just in case I get a bit dry, So I bought one of these for my terrain making days, because you make a brew and then you get down to making terrain and you forget about it, and then you turn around and you've got a cold brew. So I thought I'd grab one of these, good old Poundland, and then I'll never have a cold cup of tea again. Okay, so, right, Shore hardness scale. Have a look at it on Google. Okay, it basically rates, it is what it says it is, it rates the hardness of different materials. Okay, you've got 3 sort of categories, I guess, or 3 shores. Okay, you've got a shore 00, a shore A, and a shore D. All right, the shore 00 is basically like latexy materials. So like life castings and things like that, props for movies, and all the blood and gore that you see in the movies, that's it's going to be using latex, which is a shore 00. Now, even though shore 00 is a very thin, very flexible material, it can't be used for models. So I tend to use the next level up, which is the shore A. There are 2 main ones, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, there are 2 main ones that you would use for modelling things like, windows, doors, that sort of stuff, which are A15 and an A28. Okay, now the A15, it's got a lower viscosity, so it's more it runs better, so the higher viscosity, the denser the material. Because the A15 has a low viscosity, it enables you to pick up all of those little fine details. So I have some gargoyles, and they are so tiny, like the size of your little fingernail. That is what I would use A15 for, because they're so tiny and they've got such tiny little details that the A15 would be able to get into all of those little cracks, say his mouth where you can see his teeth, his ocular cavities, Little things like that, picking out that detail. Now, for the other things, to be honest, most of the things I sell on my eBay shop, welder 28mm_4, it's all of it is done on A28s. The mold that we're going to make in a minute is an A28. So really look at those two for consideration. Think about what you want to mold. If it's very, very tiny, say you've got some vintage high elf arms, just pulling something out of thin air, very tiny. If you've got something like that, use an A15. Okay. If you're doing slightly larger things, like you'll see the windows in a minute, I use an A28 because they're not that small. They're about a couple of centimeters by a couple of centimeters, so they're not that small. So use an A28 for that. And then finally, you've got the Shore D. Okay, these are firm rubbers, plastics and resins, basically. So that's more of the casting side of it. So I won't go into Shore D much because for the minute it's really irrelevant. But Shore D is just there to represent things like firm rubbers, so tire rubber, for example, and plastics and resin. Okay. Look up the chart on Google. Just Google image Shore hardness scale, and it will bring up like a table. And really, you just look at the table, it's self-explanatory. Okay, so A15, brilliant for small detail. A28, brilliant for smaller to medium-sized things and larger stuff. Now, if anyone's experienced with Hurst Arts, if you've got a Hurst Arts mold at home, I think most of us have. If you haven't, check it out. It's awesome. Now, I don't know what he uses Shore-wise, but I'm pretty sure it will be an A. But they're quite solid. I've got 3 or 4 of them, and you could knock someone out with one of those things. So, at a guess, I would say it would be a 65, 70, maybe a 75. So even Hurst Arts have been at it for years. They use an A Shore. Okay, so I think that's all the Shore hardness scale. Yep. Sorry, just checking off my list. So a drink of my tea. This I've also used as an indicator. So when I get low on this is when I know I need to stop rambling on about this because we're getting a bit long. It usually takes me about 10 minutes to get through a cup of tea. Okay. So planning. Before you start buying, go out and buy some silicone if you want to do it, but you need to plan your mold before you do anything. Okay. Now in this video I've used a foreground tree box that I've just chopped in half. You'll see it in a second, but usually what I would do is I would make a box out of, let me just put my tea down. We would make a box out of foam board, okay, with a base and 4 walls, and then we'd take hot glue and we'd make a dam every single gap between the walls and between the floor, shove it full of hot glue, so nothing, when you pour your rubber in, it's not going to leak out everywhere, and you'll come back later and have an emptied, sort of poured out all over your worktop. So make a box. When you make it, put down your base first, then lie down the model or models or items that you're going to mold. Make sure there's a good few centimeters gap in between the two. You don't want to leave too little space, otherwise when you pop them out you're more likely to snap the mold, or not snap the mold but break it, tear it. So leave a few centimeters in between each item. yeah, so on top of that, you've also leave yourself what I refer to as a pouring gap. Okay, so on one side of the box, you can be wherever you want, top, bottom, left, right. Leave about half an inch tops. Okay, and I use this as the pouring space. Now, a massive factor of making these molds without vacuum chambers and things like that is doing what I call a slow pour. That could be a generic term, I have no idea, but essentially you'll see me do it in a minute. But you're gonna hold it to one side and let the latex or the rubber, whatever, run out into this gap that you've made, and then just let it naturally flow over the item or into the item, whatever it is you're molding. Okay, and that's how we're going to do this to make sure that we get no air bubbles. So yeah, lay out your box, put your items in, make sure you leave a gap, but you don't have to do it all like a border, just make sure you leave a gap at one side of about half an inch to an inch, and that will be your pouring area. Right, so we've got creating a box, slow pouring, leaving the gap. Okay, and calculating mass. Now, even after all these years, I still have to write this down because I keep forgetting it. So if you want to, grab a piece of pen and paper and write this down. Okay, this is how you figure out how much material you're going to need to make the mold with the box that you have. Okay, so this is just for a one-part mold, just for a single one-sided mold. Okay, your mass, or the volume of the box, the mass of the box, is the length times the width times the height. Okay, and then you multiply that number by 18.5, and that will give you your total mass, or your volume, whatever you want to call it, of your box, and that will tell you how many grams of rubber or material you need to mix up. Okay, so that's mass equals length times width times height, and then multiply that number by 18.5, and that's for a one-part mold. And all that changes is when you do a two-part mold, you do that same bit of maths again, but you times your final number by 2 because you've got two halves. Okay, it's a two-part mold, which I will go into in a different video. Yeah, so that's the mass. And again, I didn't mention it because I filmed my original intro, then did all the molding stuff, and then decided I was going to redo the intro. Now, during the molding process, I completely forgot, because I was focusing on getting everything right for you so much, that I forgot about release spray. Okay, before you pour your mold, I didn't bring it in with me. Darn. Go onto eBay or Google and have a look up mold release spray. Okay, it's a simple spray can. In fact, I'm going to go and pause it and I'll get mine. Okay, so here it is. There we go, get it to the camera. So this is a release spray. Okay, so when I'm pouring the mold in a minute, what I should have done is, before I poured the latex in, is given this a spray onto the items that I was molding. Okay, now you'll see by the video it didn't make a lot of difference, but it is highly advised that you get some of this stuff, so that when you come to pull your stuff out of the mold, it won't stick. Okay, it will prolong the life of your molds. So that's release spray. Oh, and actually that's brought another lifetime of the molds. Okay, one last thing and then we'll go to the molding table. Lifetime of the molds. Now, I usually find with the A28 molds I make, I get roughly about 40 to 50 casts out of one of them. So what you need to do is create a negative mold, okay, and this will be one that only gets used when your new one sort of gives up and it starts fraying and gets holes in and things like that. So you always have a master mold. So when you make something for the first time, make 2 separate molds. Okay, you'll have one then that you want to cake in talcum powder, wrap it in plastic and put it in a cool, dry place. Okay, that will last a lifetime. That will be your negative. So then you'll have your second mold. Okay, the one I'm making in this video is my new negative mold. So that gives you no idea. So that the first one I made about 6 years ago. Keep it well, keep it dry, keep it covered in talcum powder, and keep it out of sunlight, and it will last for a long time. So make 2 molds. So you've got your negative mold and you've got your usable mold, and then when the usable mold gives up and it starts fraying and, you know, gets holes in and things like that, throw that one away, dig the negative out, make another model out of it, remold the new, put the negative back in the drawer. Okay, that way your items will last you a lifetime. I also, as a backup, I keep all of the original bits in a Sealy bag, but they're all plastic and lead and stuff, so they're not gonna, you know, go anywhere anytime soon. So when you're making, always make sure that you've got your master mold, which will make sure that you always have a copy. Right, so I think that's enough of the waffling. Yeah, I think that's enough of the waffling. I've covered everything on my list. No doubt I've forgotten something. If there's any questions, you know, leave it in the comments down below. I'll answer them to the best of my capabilities. You know, I might have been at this for years. I don't know everything. Okay, so yeah, let's head over to the workbench and we'll make our mold. Okay, see you in a sec, guys. Okay guys, welcome to the casting and moulding workbench, which is my kitchen top. I like to work close to the sink because I you know, these are dangerous. Well, not so much the silicone, but the catalyst that go with it and all the resins and stuff. They are quite, you know, horrible to get on your skin. So I like to work by the sink. This will all be changing once I get my studio sort of sorted. Anyway, I'm rambling. Right. So going back to what we were saying earlier about we're going to make a mould here. And what I've done is I've got some windows there that I've just super glued. I don't have any hot glue, so I couldn't make a usual foam board template as I do. So I've just used an old foreground, like I mentioned earlier. It's from the tree pack. I've used the foreground lid, and then I've just super glued the windows to the base. Okay, and that's going to be, yeah, that'll be our cast. So always make sure that there's no dirt on the inside, which I didn't do. So there's a couple of hairs in there. Whatever is in there, this silicone is going to pick up all of the detail. So if you've got bits of dirt in there or whatever, it's going to pick it up. So make sure everything's clean. Give it all a wipe down. I've used super glue in this case because it creates a nice sort of dam. There will be flash that will get inside of the actual windows themselves. It'll get in there and it'll probably run underneath, but that's easily fixable. To change that, you could pack them with clay, with some oil-based clay. I just don't have any. You can pack them in oil-based clay, the backs of the windows themselves, so you won't get that problem. But it's the way I've done it for like forever, so it really makes no odds to me. Okay, so there's our, you can see also at the bottom I've left quite a gap compared to the top. You can see there's not much space and there's quite a bit of space there. That's my pouring room. I'll be pouring in from this end, so, and then it will run down. Okay, right, so we've got our things to be molded ready. Now this is the stuff that I use. It's by DWR Plastics. It's condensation cure molding rubber. It's quite simple. It gives you all of the mixing ratios on the front and how much work time it gives you. And there you can see on the back. I'm sorry about all the overexposure. It's trouble with working in UV. You can see it's an A28 medium. Okay, so that goes back to the Shaw hardness scale that we were talking about earlier. This usually gives you about 15 to 20 minutes of work time, depending on how much catalyst you put in. So what I've done is I've already measured it all and done my maths. So what we're going to do, and you have to do all of this by weight. Okay, now the ratio for these, I'll bring this over a bit more, is for your most work time, but also the most time it takes to set or cure, is 100 to 2. Okay, so if you're putting 100 grams in, you want of the molding rubber, you want 2 grams of silicone. And like I say, it gives you all the directions on the front there, so you can't really go wrong. Okay, so we're going to need worked out roughly just under 100 grams to do this. So we'll put it on our weights. Don't forget to tear off your pot, as in take the weight off of the scale so you don't have to minus it yourself. And we're just going to pour in what we need. Okay, do it nice and slowly, because one, it will stop any air bubbles getting in there, and also, oh, gone a bit over on there. That's all right. Okay, so I've gone a bit over. I've got 114 grams. I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Did I do my sums right? Tell you what, just for luck, we'll put a little bit more in. There. Okay, alright, so that was quite a bit more. I can see myself having quite a bit left over, but meh, as long as you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, I know you can't see my weights at the minute. So what I've got is 193.5, because it's flickering between 3 and 4. Okay, so we are going to need 4 grams of the catalyst. Now this is what causes it to set. Okay, so we're gonna put that to 198. There we are. Okay, so that's 198 altogether. So we've got our magical stirring stick of Zion. I'm going to put the bottle top back on that catalyst because it'll go everywhere. Now bear in mind, when you mix this and you put your catalyst in, the more catalyst goes in, the gloopier it gets and the more risk you're going to have of getting air bubbles. Okay, so you want to do it. Admittedly, it takes longer to dry, but you know, for the results, it's worth it. So aim for the longest work time. So I've done 2% of that. Okay. Yeah, and the more you add, the gloopier it gets. So do it at the minimum. Okay. So we're just going to give that a mix. Now, when we mix it, we're going to do it bring that up to the camera very, very, very gently. Okay, because we don't want to fold the catalyst in, because we'll end up putting oxygen bubbles into it. Okay. So I'm just going to stir this in very gently. And this is what I mean by the extra precautions you take to not have to buy one of these vacuum pots. It is doable, very, very doable without it. Well, we're just about to see that. Okay. When you're mixing, make sure you get all around the side so you can see what I'm doing there. God, overexposure or what? So get all around the sides. Try not to fold it, like I say, otherwise you'll put air bubbles. Just very slowly stir it. Because the catalyst is blue, that is when you know it's all mixed properly. So when you pour it out, there shouldn't be any white swirls in it or anything. Okay, that's looking about done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my stirry stick out for a second. And it can be, when you're working on the longer cure times, you know, you've got quite a bit to work with this. So while you've got it there, just give it a good push and get those oxygen bubbles to the top. Okay, we can see there we've had quite a few. Oh, a bit close. We've had a few. So let's give that another push. Okay, right. I would say that's mixed and ready to go. So, right. Oh, I'll switch the scales off before my batteries run out. So we've got I'll move the scale so you can see me pouring there. Okay, right, might just bring the camera slightly closer. Oh, I know, first person mode. Okay, there we are. Sorry if the picture's a bit skew, if this is the best way I can think of doing it. Don't have a tripod. Right, okay, so we've got our windows there. We've got our pot here. You can see the oxygen bubbles are popping to the top. That's all fine. So what we're going to do is we will pour from this end. We're going to do a very slow pour, very slow. Okay, and this way we don't get any oxygen bubbles. And as you pour, just let it just work its way over the top. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me on this one, guys, because like I say, you have to let it take its natural path. Once you start getting to the end of the pot, you might, I always used to, you might worry that oh my goodness, I haven't done enough. Oh no, this has all gone wrong. I've done it many a time myself, but don't panic. Okay, at the end of the day, this is going to be a very thin mould. So right, I'm going to get my stick now because we're starting to run out, and I'm just going to empty out the pot. I'm sorry if this goes a bit lopsided for you guys. So you can see what I've done there. Okay, so that's pretty much it done. Okay,
just take off any excess, put that to one side. And like I say, you think, oh no, I've got none left in my pot and it hasn't covered everything. Don't panic. Don't panic. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to lift this side up. In fact, I will prop it up the knife, and we will just let that slowly run over. Try and centralise that a bit more. I've actually got this camera like hooked onto my hoodie. Okay, we can see now it's all covering over. It's almost there. Come on. Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping this video is going to give people a little bit of faith in themselves about making these molds, because there's too many people out there that say, oh, you need pressure or vacuum pots, whatever you call them. You don't. If you're going to do it professionally, then yes you do, but at grassroots level you really don't. Like I say, if you've got models that you like and you don't want to get rid of, oh, there you go. And this is the best way to keep hold of them. Just remember, don't resell them, because they're not your property to sell. This is purely for your own use. Okay, there we go. I think that I'm going to transfer it over to the actual flat worktop. Okay, let these set on a flat work surface because you want it to be nice and level. Okay, but there is our mold. Okay, and just to give you examples of other ones that I've made, the good old fountain that I kept referring to earlier, there's the mold for the fountain. Okay, see its flat side there, and so you can see some of the bubbles come out, but no vacuum chamber. What else have we got? We've got to give you, and I saved this one specifically for this. Okay, I tried to do a mold, this was a little while ago now, for these same windows. I need a new master mold, and so I decided, yeah, okay, we'll crack the silicone out and we'll make one. And I put too much catalyst in it and it made it too thick, and this is the result. Okay, you can see how many air bubbles and everything is in these and how ruined this mold is. Here's a window that I cast out of it there, and you can see, oh, down a bit. I don't know whether you can make that out on camera because of the exposure, but most of the panes are filled in. Okay, so it does go wrong. Even after I've been doing it for these many years, it does go wrong. Okay, so I thought I'd keep that and just show you guys that, you know, even the most experienced can get it wrong. Okay, so that one's going to go in the bin. Okay, so we're going to leave this now. The cure time on the pot, here we go. So I did it at 100 to 2. So cure time 2 to 3 hours. So what I'm going to do is leave it until morning. It's 9:10 at night now, so I'm going to leave it till the morning, and we'll come back and we'll crack it open and see how it's come out. Okay, and see you guys shortly. Okay, so hey guys, here we are back at the work table. It's been 24 hours since we poured this mold, and as you can see, it's nice and firm and set. Now, before we crack this out, what I might do, just to save on the length of this video, because I was re-watching the amount of footage and we're almost up to 20 minutes and I haven't even taken out the packet yet. So what I might do is just take it out to show you, and then pause it, take all of the pieces out, and then just show you the mold at the end. we'll see what we're doing for time. So let's crack this out. Okay, so we might, I doubt it, but we might need some scissors to cut the plastic away. Or we might be lucky. There we go. There we go. Don't be worried about, you know, you're not going to break anything. Half the windows are still stuck in there with some flash, so there's our mould and there's our windows. So we'll just, there we go. They're coming out fine actually. Oh, okay. Not sure how that happened. Must have been a structurally weak one. Interesting. Never had that happen before. Okay, yes, to save time, guys, I'm just going to go through this, take these windows out, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so here we are back at the table. I've got all the windows out, as you can see here, and we've got a nice little mould. So I just thought I'd show you quickly. What I've done with these first couple here is I've just gone round with a pair of scissors and I've taken off what we call the flash. Now the flash is all the sort of extra bits of rubber that go where it shouldn't have done and things like that. So just to show you an example here, you can see there we've got this extra little flap of rubber. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors, bend it over on itself so we can see that edge, and then just carefully trim it off. Just take a tiny bit more off there, and a little bit on the bottom. Okay, and this isn't going to affect your model in any way. This is just getting rid of the excess bits. Remember me saying at the beginning we're going to get it run into the windows, so we'll have to get rid of the flash. Well, this is the flash. So I won't do it to all of them just to save on time. We'll clean up these edges just because I like square moulds, and I also would like a sharp blade. Okay, and there we have it, guys. One perfectly good usable mould. So let's set up for the outro, and I will see you guys in a second. Okay, and there is our mould tutorial. I hope this has helped you to maybe put your mind at ease, and hopefully now after watching this video you're thinking, actually yeah, I will give it a try. Like I said, you can go on eBay. You don't have to buy big jars like I've got. You can buy sort of 500ml pots and things like that, or 500 grams or whatever. So you know, just take something small, buy one of those off of eBay. DWR Plastics does a little tub, you know, about that big, buy about that, and it's enough to mould one large piece or two sort of medium pieces, and give it a go. It's not that hard. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful, and like it if you like it, share if you think anyone else would like to see it, and most importantly, subscribe. So have fun moulding, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.